Fingers crossed. Yay, I think we did it. Okay.
You're such a pro.
This at half of the time, it doesn't want me to stream to YouTube. It tells me that I'm not allowed. I don't know why. And then the other half, it lets me. So I think we are here. I'm going to start recording.
And
Okay.
Courtney, will you drop the YouTube link in the Telegram?
I'm going to just drop it in the chat here and then have you drop it in the
Okay, go
Telegram
ahead.
so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can get
Yeah.
so I can get started. And as long as it loads, it's still loading.
Cool. Okay, do your thing.
Okay, so welcome everyone to this is our second town hall in the Luna Den. This is part one. As I've mentioned, this will be a 3-part. Today we have Jason Campbell, and I'm just going to share a little bit about why I chose to bring Jason on and then let you introduce yourself, Jason. So as I mentioned in Telegram, I got to meet Jason about a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, when I was in Arizona with the guys. So those of you who are not familiar with what's happening in the Wolf Den, they're building something called Wolf Zen. I won't get too much into the details of that. I'll let him share a little bit about it. But we were visiting actually the town, the area where that's all being built. And for those of you who've been out to Cleator, you know that when you're driving out in this area, it's a crazy ride. And on the way there, I was riding just with some of the guys, and they had a car that was not really necessarily built for this drive. And when I'm in vehicles, I easily get anxiety, especially when it's drives that I've never been on before. And when they're really windy like that. So the whole way there, I am like bracing myself. I was very uncomfortable, very car sick. So on the way back, I was like, you know what? I'm riding with Jim. Just met him, but he had a Raptor. He's built for this. He's done it many times. And so I chose that path. And something that I'd mentioned in Telegram was he was sharing his background with meditation with me. And I'm going to let you share the story, Jason, but he was introduced to it when he was 8 years old, and he was sharing that whole experience with me. And as we're getting back into the town of Phoenix or wherever we were out of the mountainous area where it was no longer bumpy and such. And I realized I had not even once thought about the fact that I was in a car in a windy road where I'm usually like, I'm very like highly aware when I'm in a car. Like my hand is up on the thing that you can hold. And I'm like at all times, like, what's happening? Like, am I going to die? Which is very dramatic, but that's just my experience in cars. That's one of my fear places. And I share all of that because I think this is actually a really relevant part of the equation that comes with crypto, where we often are operating out of that human survival instinct. When we don't know ourselves, we don't realize that the volatility can cause us to act out of these heightened emotions of fear, of FOMO, of whatever may come. And so I thought, what better way than to start us out in this community than with someone who understands this all very well, by just sharing his journey. And then we may even get into some breath work. So Jason, we appreciate you jumping on. Yeah. And I want to hear from you, and everyone get to hear about your experience of that journey of getting into meditation at such a young age and where that's brought you to now.
Oh, it's funny. There's all types of journeys. There's a car journey and a dirt road.
Yeah.
And we were going fast also.
Very fast.
And then you just settled into the now is what happened. See, where a lot of times anxiety, because we have these, there's different emotions. We have positive emotions, we have negative emotions. And the emotions actually hang out in different parts of your body. So we hold anger in our liver, we hold shock in our heart, we hold fear in our kidneys, we hold grief in our lungs, we hold worry in our stomach and spleen. And so we have these different emotions that travel around. And see, most people get into crypto for one reason, and that's just to build wealth, like to build resources. But then you have to say, okay, what is wealth and what does that even mean? You're usually not into crypto because you like collecting coins. You want the coins to do something. So it's like the coins, the tokens, the whole process, the farming, everything is a means to an end. And then you have to say, what's the end? Well, really at the end of the day, it's economic resources and having some type of abundance, which is survival. And having your stuff, and there's all types of things that come with that, because we need, food, shelter, and clothing, and that's, some of the basics. However, If only that were enough. If only the tokens and the coins and the balance, you know, what you look on tin and all that, if only that was enough for fulfillment, that would be so cool. But it's not. It's not. We need more. You need more. I need more. And what does that even mean? Well, if we, oh, do I have one of our books here? I might not have it here. And if I don't, I can show it another time. I have it over there. But there's three characters that I won't, and it says Jing, Qi, and Shun. And what does that mean? You don't have to remember those words. And also, I'll say you don't have to remember anything I'm saying. Just relax and listen and let this flow. And you're going to absorb something, and you might have a takeaway. You know, you might not, but see if you can just be here right now and enjoy this moment. And let's enjoy this moment together. So, what does Jing, Qi, and Shun even mean? We're made up of three things. We're made up of matter, energy, and consciousness. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the matter is everything you can see, touch, feel, you know, that you can hold in your hands. The chi is energy, it's breath, it's emotion, it's prana, it's ki, it's gi, it's the bioelectrical animated energy force that keeps us alive. There's many words we can use for that. And then the shun is the consciousness, and we're made up of all three. And think of H2O. We have solid, liquid, vapor, ice, water, and mist. And it's the same thing. It's all made up of H2O, but it shows up differently. And so when we look at, and it's actually a great segue, Courtney, because we're talking about emotion and having anxiety, because you can have all the abundance in the world, but if you don't have happiness and you're stressed out all the time and you have anxiety and you have zero emotional mastery, it's kind of like your emotions just completely own you and you're up, down, a little crazy, a little loony. Well, it becomes much more difficult to enjoy any type of abundance. Now, I'd rather have money and be crazy than not have money and be crazy. So I'll still take the abundance over that. However,
Totally. Yeah.
you're not going to find any type of happiness if you don't have some level of emotional mastery. And even part of emotional mastery is managing the crypto. I mean, this all ties in, not making rash decisions. And look, in the entire market crashed, whatever it was, a week ago. Okay, so market goes up, market goes down. There's a lot of you're riding on the back of a crazy dragon. Sometimes dragon swoops low, sometimes dragon goes high, and it went low not because of anything you and I did, and it goes high not because of anything you and I did. That's just like the ride of the dragon. When I was a child, this was my abundance training when I was a kid. And my Zen master said to me, when it came time to talk about money and understand money, he said, sometimes pond full, sometimes pond empty. Pond full, okay. Pond empty, okay. And he walked off. I was left to contemplate that.
I love it.
It's actually a great teaching because, okay, so your bank says your bank has a lot of zeros. Okay. Your bank doesn't have too many zeros. Okay. Can you be steady? Can you cultivate mind? Can you just be steady within that? And this is what a great example over the last week. Crypto market goes crazy and goes up. Okay. Crypto market goes crazy and goes down. Okay. Can you have that emotional mastery? Because, okay, so you mentioned, well, I'll circle back around to what you were talking about before, some of my background. Okay. I recently celebrated my 52nd birthday. And this journey for me started at age 8. So I guess that would be 44 years ago. And I was a boy at the piano, and my music teacher said to me, this is my first lesson. She said, never, ever listen to notes. Idiots, listen to notes. Masters, listen to the space in between the notes. Because when you focus on a note, your mind gets cluttered. When you listen to silence or space or the gap, the inner dialogue drops, and now you hear everything. So we would practice. We would just, hit a note, gong, and we listen to that note, ding, just go off into nothing. gong, and we just listen to that note. And I just, with my eyes closed, I can remember so clearly just listening. And there's that moment of a vibration and it turns into nothing. And that's where you place your attention. And what that did is it just gave mental clarity. So 10 years later, when I was formally trained in an ashram and we used to sit and meditate for 4 hours a day, I realized, oh, wait a minute, I've already been doing this. We didn't use the word meditation, we used the word deep listening, but who cares what word you use? The important part is that your head gets cleared. It's kind of like this, okay? This is you on thoughts, right? And hey, Callie, this is you when you have a newborn, right? It gets a lot of turbid. And oh, this is you staring at a crypto screen. And oh my God, everything's dropping. Oh no. And wait a minute. So in between your ears becomes a turbid shit show. But watch what happens when this becomes still. As the snow globe gets still, look at that. The turbidity starts to settle. And after a while, we have clarity. It's estimated we have between 50,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day. 99% of them are the same thoughts you had yesterday. So it just like becomes a skipped record. And Joe Polish talks about this all the time. Crypto is a petri dish for addiction. So you got to get it really careful. There's just that it doesn't turn off and that just keeps churning, and you're, staring at a screen. That's a tough way to live. That's a tough way to go through life with that level of turbidity. We have to have moments of clarity and ultimately moments of not thinking. And that's part of the mastery. That's what we do in Master's Apprentice. It's, can you develop the off switch where you can turn it off, come completely into the now. There's no past. There's no future. Even seal your senses and do that, because something magical happens when you turn off your senses. We have 5 senses, you see. See, we use this metaphor. There's a 6,000-year-old metaphor, and it's called the 5 elements. Confusing name, confusing words. 60 seconds, I'll even clarify this for you. You might have heard, wood, fire, earth, metal, water. And people say, oh yeah, isn't there a band like Earth, Wind, and Fire or something like that? Okay, that's not the point here. Those 5 elements is not literal wood, literal fire, literal earth. It's a metaphor. And the metaphor, and this is thousands of years old, is for a repeating pattern in 5 of 5. Because if you just look around, you'll see 5 show up all the time. I mean, look at your hands, look at your toes. We have 5 senses. And we have 5 vowels. We have 5 musical tones. We have the decimal system, which is, right here. We have 5 in Oriental medicine. We have 5 sets of organs. We have 5 emotions. And so there's all this 5 keeps showing up. And so let's give it a name. Let's call it wood, fire, earth, metal, water, but it's not literal wood. It's not literal fire. That's just a word that we're going to use to describe the pattern or describe the energy. For example, we have sprouting, flowering, fruiting, falling, rotting. Well, there's 5. We have the seasons. We have sprouting, which is springtime. We have early summer and then late summer. Fire and then earth. We have the fall, which is crisp. It's metal type element. We have water, which is cold in winter. And so we have this 5. We have life phases. We have age 0 to 8, you're in the wood phase of life. That's the sprouting. That's the wood energy. Everything just sprouts. Penelope, you look at Penelope one day, and then an hour later you look and she looks different. Like, what? How did that happen? And then a day later, it's just so much growth because she's in the wood phase. If you don't know, Penelope is Callie's newborn, 6 months. But then you hit age 8 to 33, we call that the fire phase or the early summer. 8 to 33, these are all in 25-year phases. And I call that the look at me, what I'm going to be phase, because then you're coming into your potential. You're even in your 20s, even in your late 20s, you're not fully actualized, you're not fully realized. You're still coming into your potential there. And then we go through the earth phase, which is age 8 to 33, that's late summer. You'll usually notice most people right around those early 30s. I mean, these are season changes, so it's not like one day, it's gradual, but usually right around 33-ish, give or take a few years, you go through some type of major life reorganization. It just happens. You tend to think it's personal, but really it's a season change. Sometimes you blow up your reality. Sometimes your reality blows up you. It just tends to happen that way. Okay, that goes to 58. A lot of your life work is done between age 33 and 58. Then that prepares for the fall. So I'm 6 years away from 58. So this is what I'm preparing for, is the harvest. And that's the metal element. And when you go through 58 to 83, then it's like, think a sword. You have to cut away everything that doesn't serve you, because things fall during that time period. People fall, your skin falls, organs fall. It's the fall. So things get cut. And the mastery there is cutting everything that's going to weigh you down. And then, of course, 83 to 108 is winter or water, and that's preparation for death and all of eternity. And that's ultimately when you give everything away. So a little like life element, 5 elements, and I'm kind of bouncing around here, but those 5 is that repeating pattern that we see over and over again. How are we doing so far, Courtney? Does that bring up any
great.
questions?
No, this is good. No, yeah, this is awesome. I remember you actually sharing this as we were driving, and I was thinking about the phase that I'm in right now. I'm 27, and definitely in that stage where you realize like I'm definitely not fully developed. But I'm curious, just for myself, and maybe this would be beneficial for others. Like when we look at that phase that we're in, how does one get the most out of that phase? Or even like you said, you're preparing for fall. What does that look like? And what does that mean to be preparing for this next phase?
Well, okay. So let's go back to matter, energy, and consciousness. And so you got to keep the body strong. I know that's so cliche, and you already know that. You don't need me to tell you that, but you got to do it. And especially we weren't designed to stare at a computer screen all day and look at numbers and blips and go up and down. We're actually designed to move. So you have to move your body. You have to just get out there and do something physical. And maybe at another time, I have cameras set up and everything. So we actually do movement. I mean, we have programs and stuff that we do physical movement. Today, we'll probably just start with some breath work. But here's the other part of it is when I said emotional mastery, okay, go with me on this. We have emotions. Like something happens and you say, oh, I'm so angry. And if you have a liver, you're going to experience anger. You can practice all the Zen you want in the world. At some point, you're going to have anger energy is going to run through you, and that's okay. But instead of saying, I am angry, let's think about that wording here. Well, you're not anger. Anger is a vibrational frequency. Actually, the color of anger is green. There's a vibration, there's a frequency. It hangs out in the liver, it hangs out in the eyes, hangs out in the gallbladder. So in that moment, you're not angry. Actually, you're a dollop of consciousness that hangs out in this big bag of meat, bones, and rotting flesh. And we have this weird lease agreement, that we get this body for a little while and then we have to give it back. It's a very strange concept. But actually what I am, is a little dollop of consciousness. That's the eternal I am. And so you're not angry. You might have anger type energy running through you. Oh, that's such a difference. It's like, ooh, I got anger energy running through me right now. That's very different than saying I am angry, because once you say I am angry, you identified with that emotion, and now you just lost yourself. You're totally lost. For example, This is not my shirt. It's the shirt I wear. Okay, this is, not my chair. It's the chair I sit in. I could go on and on. It's not my microphone. It's the microphone I use and speak into. Now, from a legal viewpoint, is this my shirt? Is this my microphone? Yes, of course, legally. But spiritually, is it? No, you don't own anything spiritually, because at some point you give it back. At some point, me and this microphone part ways. At some point, me and the shirt part ways. Sometimes, it's not my house, it's the house I live in. And it's a little distinguished, even language that creates a little bit of space between you and the object, or you and the energy. You can take it a whole step further, and you can say, this is not my body. It's the body I live in. Because at some point, we're all giving it back, this body. And so, again, that creates a little bit of space. So then when it becomes to emotions, you can have all these emotions go up and down, because, hey, once you, I'll roll with anger. Once you have anger in you, you can't logic your way out of that, or anxiety. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm feeling anxiety. And someone says, well, come on, don't worry about it. What's to worry about? It's like, oh, that helps. Thanks. Oh, really? Why didn't I think of that? Just don't worry about it. Hey, I'm fixed. Okay. Thanks for fixing me. And see that's it's not helpful. It might be true, may or may not be true. There's nothing to worry about. Well, you know, if you're focused on worry, there's always something to worry about. It's called impermanence.
Mm.
But once you have anxiety or worry in your body, you don't logic it out. It's okay. So what do you deal with it? Well, sometimes the pain comes from resistance of it. You wrap around feeling like you shouldn't be worried. Oh my God, I'm worried. And oh, I shouldn't be this. Well, that's unnecessary. Like if that thinking helped, let's do it immediately. But the thing to do, and part of, you know, again, this is what we do in Master's Apprentice, the emotional mastery, it starts with the breath. And it starts with the breathing, and then you create a little bit of space between you and the emotion. And it's not about never experiencing anxiety or worry or stress. The mastery is how quickly can you recover and how quickly can you come back to center. Because it's a funny concept. You say, oh, I want to be centered, and you know, I need to be more centered. Or you look at someone and you say, wow, that person is really centered. Well, what does that even mean? In order to be centered, you have to get pulled off center. Because if you're never pulled off center, the center can't exist. So the center only exists by being pulled off. Like most of you listening right now, it's 9 o'clock in the AM by my time. It's whatever time it is for you. But by noon, there's a really good chance you're going to get pulled off center. Something's going to happen and you're going to get pulled off. And that's okay because it creates the center. So when you can flip your thinking from, oh, wow, I'm getting pulled off center. Oh, no, you know, oh, okay, how come you do this to me? I'm pulling off center. Oh, my God, it's so stressful, and a little bit of the self-pity talk. If you can flip it and say, oh, wow, I'm being pulled off center. Well, that's pretty cool because that creates my center. Now I can be centered.
Wow.
You
I
see the flip?
love that. That's so good. No, I actually, that's a very key point that I'm glad you bring up, because you know what, for the longest time when I was trying to get into meditation and understanding like more spiritually what it really meant to be centered, the challenge that I always had was the judgment that would come with when you, like you're saying, you don't feel centered. So like something's wrong with me now, or something's wrong with the experience that I'm having. But this is a totally different approach to it, where it almost feels like there's like appreciation and gratitude for that contrast of the goal being centered. If there's something off centered, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
You see, okay, we talk about happiness. Oh, and you say, oh, I want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Well, what does that even mean? If you're always happy, you're never happy.
Yeah.
If everything is blue, nothing's blue.
Totally.
Happiness can only exist with its opposite. So what word can we use for its opposite? What's the first word that comes to mind, Courtney, when we say the opposite of happy?
Powerless.
Okay, powerless. Interesting. That's an interesting word. But see, it doesn't matter what word we use.
Yeah,
Let's just call it the opposite. We have a yin and yang symbol. I think we were familiar with the yin and yang symbol and the little dollop of black and white and black. It's a profound teaching in that. And so happiness can only exist with its opposite. And so every next time, which will happen, chances are it'll happen before lunchtime or dinner or whatever time you're listening to this. Next time that happens, be grateful for it. Oh, wow. God, I have a little frustration. Looks like I'm creating some happiness right now. You can't have a tomato without the manure. It's, oh, I just want tomatoes and I don't want no cupcake without the shit. You got to have the shit with the cupcake, okay? So it's a yin yang, and you get both of them. But when you start thinking emotionally like that, the drama level just ding 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 starts to drop. I mean, you can have a little bit of drama, and that's okay. But then how quickly can you recover and come back to it? And also, it's not that you don't take your emotions seriously, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, like when a storm comes and there's a little thunderstorm, it's not the end of the world. The thunderstorm will pass. And so the emotion will pass, you know, and there's a series of breathing exercises. There's a whole series that we do to you know, kind of build that muscle, because the first thing, let's just understand it here, the shun, but then we have to put it into the cells, because you can know something and not feel it. You know, there's knowing and knowing of. Like if you know of if you have a lot of shoulds, Like, you know of something. Well, I should eat dinner. Oh, I know of nutrition. I read a cookbook and I read this, but you're, eating Twinkies in the morning. Well, you know of nutrition, but you don't know nutrition. So
Mhm.
knowing it is actually doing it and living it. Knowing of it is just having it here in your head.
Yeah, no, this is really good. I want to go back because we're talking about like emotions and not identifying with them. And you mentioned it's not that, I don't remember exactly how you put it, but like it's not that you completely take focus off of having the emotion. At, at what point do we distinguish? And this is just kind of like, I'll share very transparently, a journey I'm on of understanding how to, like, not identifying with that emotion, but also at the same time, when you're learning to trust yourself and trust what your body is telling you. What do you think that journey looks like, Jason, of like understanding the emotions that we're having, not identifying with them, but also being able to use them as a guide?
Yeah.
That
Okay.
question
That's a
makes
really,
sense.
really good question, because ultimately, what's an emotion? An emotion is energy. And we can judge an emotion, and we can judge and say, oh, this is a good emotion. Ooh, that's a bad emotion. And we can,
Mhm.
oh, that's a happy and that's sad. But what if we just looked at all of it as energy?
Mhm.
And, there's also another part of mastery is being okay with uncomfortable emotions. Ooh, can you sit and you just don't, does not feel good. There's nothing pleasant about it. And can you just sit and be still in it and and feel it? And that in itself is a mastery, as opposed to running, flailing, screaming, kicking, and running away from it. Because again, emotions are just emotion, and that's part of the mastery. So the first part is having a little bit of space. And then can you go in and feel it and stop the incessant stream of thinking when you feel it? This is not an overnight process. This takes training. Okay. This is a journey, because you need the tools, and you got to practice the tools, and you got to remember to do it in the moment. And
Mhm.
sometimes, wisdom is not knowing, wisdom is just remembering. And it's just
Mhm.
remembering this and when it actually happens. Because see, it's easy to be all zen when all the conditions are perfect. When everybody does exactly as you want them to do, and everybody does what you say. How's that working out? And and everything happens, and the market just happens exactly as you want. Oh yes, I'm so
Yeah, the guard
flaky.
chart's going up. Everything's great.
Oh yes, it's just wonderful. It's easy to be so zen, but where you really get tested is when things don't go the way you want them to go. And and what fun would life be if everything went exactly as you wanted? I mean, so we have to. There's some, you wouldn't grow, that's for sure.
Mhm.
So there's some navigation here, and that's again part of the mastery, because look, there's three types of karma. Karma just means cause and effect. There's your personal karma, there's other people's karma, and there's universal karma. Okay, your personal karma, you have some control over, not full control, but you have control over. Other people's behavior, karma, you have this much influence with your inner circle. Everyone else, you don't have that. That's other people's karma. The crypto market is other people's karma.
Mhm.
And and one group just crashed whatever coin that was, when they just crashed the whole thing. That's, you and I didn't do that. That's other people's karma there. Universal karma is, environmental. You can think of it as God's karma. So you're late for work one day. Well, if you couldn't find your car keys, that's your personal karma. If there was traffic, that's other people's karma. If there was a blizzard and a snowstorm and all the roads shut down, that's universal karma. So you can think of like
Mhm.
those three things, um, which means you don't got a lot of control.
Wow.
If you're a control freak, this is a little tough. No, because you don't. And so, but what can you do? You can respond as opposed to react. And what does that mean? We can use semantics, whatever words, but when I think of reacting, I think of no space between action and reaction. When I think respond, there's the action, something happens, and you have some space. And then you respond. And anyone with kids, you get the great opportunity to develop that muscle, of the muscle of responding and not reacting. And they will teach you that more than any Zen master will teach you, in more than any temple and any ashram. That's how they'll teach you that, because it's live, and you're going to feel, you'll go through this overwhelm, and you'll have these things going on, and then the kids will go, mom, mom, or whatever it is, dad, dad, dad. And You can feel that. That's the tension, that's the emotion, but you might feel that in the moment. And then can you catch yourself in that moment? Okay. Let's come back to center. Oh, I was pulled off center. Okay, awesome. They're creating my center. Okay, hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? And then drop back into that. And then you get pulled off, and then drop and then come back in to center. And that's a muscle. That is a muscle that you'll spend the rest of your life developing that muscle.
Yeah, and it sounds like it takes a lot of just like conscious awareness all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Like being very, very consciously aware, which I can just speak to my experience lately of practicing that. It's it takes a lot of attention. And it's not something, because what our first, actually, Dr. Jeff Spencer talks about this, like our human instinct, that survival instinct, it has first dibs. So it's like the automatic response that we would normally, reaction, I should say, that we would normally have. But this is something that we actually have to take the time to build and create.
Yeah, and that comes from space. A little bit of space between action and reaction. And also, okay, so let's do this right now. So how do you create space in your thoughts? And in a moment, we'll do a breathing exercise in a moment. But here's something. One, there's many ways you can create space in between your thoughts. And let's try this right now. Let's see, because your mind right now has a conversation. There's a beautiful word, human being. The human part changes daily. So the human part's different than when you and I were a child. The being part, the observer, that which watches your thoughts, doesn't change. The 8-year-old boy or 8-year-old girl that was that observer back here, it's the same observer now. And so part of meditation, all we're doing in meditation, is see if we can create a gap in the incessant stream of thinking. It's like the snow globe analogy. So, because right now you have a dialogue with yourself. Oh, this is interesting what he's talking about. Oh, this doesn't make any sense. Oh, this guy is crazy. Oh, hey, what's for lunch? Oh, I have an appointment. Blah, 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 blah. You have all these thoughts. But can we go like this? Oh, well, what's that thought? Hey, I really like grapes and I want a sandwich. Okay, we just did it. We had a whatever crazy thought is going to happen. We had that space, that little bit of space. And can we do that? So let's try it right now. So there's so many ways to get there, a little Zen exercise, but let's try it right now. See if you can place your attention on the silence in between my words. The same teaching when I was a child, the silence in between my notes. And maybe at another time I can do live piano, Zen piano here. And maybe I'll set that up for another time. We can do a meditation. I'll actually play a piano.
Right.
And right now, word, place your attention in the gap. I can even feel the energy just dropped on a Zoom call and a YouTube stream. I could feel that because right now, it dropped. Oh, sure, in 5 minutes, you'll be back going, blah, 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 blah. But right now, we got it. And see how long you can remember to do it, because there's an interesting phenomenon now. See, here's what just happened. Even if you had a little split second of not thinking, there is a Japanese word called satori, S-A-T-O-R-I, which translates roughly into a glimpse of enlightenment. And there's another saying, very old saying, that a moment enlightened is forever enlightened, meaning you can't unring that bell. So that once you experience that moment of space, there's no going back. Oh, you might forget. It might be turbid. You might lose your mind. You will. You're going to do all this crazy stuff. But once you experience it, you can't go back. And so even now, are we still listening to space, or did we forget? Because wisdom is remembering. So I just gave you the tool. I just showed you one secret of an off switch. There's many, but that's one, and it's so simple, and you can do it. And actually, you know how to do it already. Do you need to practice it? Well, yes and no. It's more about remembering than practicing. Once you know how to do it, don't think practicing, because practicing brings you past, future, past, future, past, future. Only think, I just have to remember now. And then you can turn your mind off. Okay. Do you want to do some breathing? Can we do 4 minutes of breathing?
Oh, yes, that would be great. That in itself already, what we just did was absolutely wonderful. I could feel the energy. I don't know if anyone else could feel it. That was wild.
Is that amazing?
Yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely incredible.
it drops right down and it drops into the now. And see, you already do that. But by the way, everyone listening here, you already have had these experiences. They just tend to be random. Or you get really into something and you lose all time, you lose all past, you lose all future because you're completely in the moment. So really what we do is we build the muscle so you can do that more. It's not just regularly, but it's more by design as opposed to random. Because also sometimes Zen comes through trauma. That's the other thing. You get in a car accident, everything starts to move slow. And then you have a Zen moment, but unfortunately it's a traumatic moment, but you were still in that moment in the now. There's a quote by Winston Churchill, and he says, "Nothing is more exhilarating than to be shot at without result." And what he's pointing to is being in the now. It's one way to put you in the now. I don't recommend it, but it is a way to do it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So here's my question. So raise your hand if you are opposed to investing 4 minutes into yourself. Do I see any hands raised? I never get any hands raised. Okay, so let's invest 4 minutes completely into yourself. And we're going to do this with breath and intention. And so really simple, we're going to breathe in and out through the nose and think of your lower abdomen like a balloon. So we're going to super, super simple. Okay. And do the best you can with this. This is a 4-minute exercise. And I scored the music for this. And I'll do the best you can. We're going to inhale. We're going to hold the inhalation. We're going to hold the exhalation, where is really where the magic happens. If you can do this entire exercise the first time, that's wonderful. If you can't, if you have to, breathe in or breathe out when I'm telling you to hold it, that's okay too. The only thing that matters is just be completely present for 4 minutes. So let's do this. Okay, shoulders relaxed. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Eyes can be open or closed. Exhale. Okay, now we're going to go twice as fast with the breathing. So inhale. Exhale. In. Release. This is the pace. Inhale. Big breath in. One more. Inhale all the way. Exhale completely. Keep breathing out. Now don't breathe in. We're holding this 20 seconds. Breathe out a little more. Okay, hold the exhalation. Put mind intent right in your lower abdomen. Now inhale. And then hold the inhalation just 30 seconds. And we spoke about shun or mind. Bring your mind right in your abdomen and feel it right there. Relax your shoulders. Relax your face. Wiggle your toes. And here we go. Exhale. Okay, second and final round. Inhale. Exhale. In, we do 9 of these. This is the pace. So you're pumping energy. You're pumping chi, prana, life force. You're filling your energy bank account. Inhale, exhale, inhale. Now exhale all the way. Don't breathe in. The second hold is 30 seconds. Clock's already started. Keep breathing out. Breathe out a little more. Okay, hold the exhalation. Shoulders relaxed. Smile. Wiggle your toes, we're almost there. And big breath in, inhale. And hold the inhalation, 30 seconds. Mind intent is in your lower abdomen. The lower abdomen, we call that the dantian. And you can think of that as your safe, your bank account. That's where we store energy, we store chi. And we want that full. We want the bank account to be full. Exhale. Okay, box breathing. Inhale 4 seconds. Now we hold 4 seconds. Exhale. Squeeze all the air out and hold the exhalation 4 seconds. Inhale. And hold. Exhale. And hold. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. Okay, this is the last breath. Make this the best breath of the day so far. Inhale. This should feel so good. Exhale all the way. You just invested 4 minutes into yourself. It's so simple. It's so tiny amount of time, but it's a very, very powerful breath exercise. How do we feel? Courtney, how you feeling?
I feel amazing. That was wonderful. Yeah, I've been doing these, Jason, since I connected with you and got some of the breath work. I've been doing them almost every day, because I think something you mentioned, which maybe you want to mention to everyone else, is doing this frequent. Do you say frequent and often?
Yeah.
Is key. And yeah, this is great.
And I'm looking at some of the comments
brighter
here, and this is awesome. So Martin saying, take practice and awareness. Mark, The Untethered Soul. That's a great book. And then, right, so awesome. Room is brighter. Yes, room is brighter. Well, actually, check this out. Is the room brighter from one viewpoint? But actually, the room's the same. You're brighter. When this is a couple of years ago, I was doing an album. I don't know. We didn't talk about any of my background. I have over 100 albums.
Yeah, share these crazy, amazing details with us. Jason has done with how young you are and how much you've done in your lifetime is absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you. And so one of my albums, it was it's going through Vedic mantra. I do a new album the last Friday of every month, or the fourth Friday of every month. In one of them, I was describing the sun. It was a little meditation on the sun, and we're using mantra for it. And so, does the sun rise or not? It's an interesting question. Well, from the viewpoint of Earth, the sun rises, of course, but from the viewpoint of the sun just shines. So in the music, I did 2 different scores, one rising and then one just shining. But it was interesting about the room. Is the room any brighter? So here's another concept. I don't know if you ever contemplated this as a kid. When a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? Oh, interesting question. It's actually a really simple answer. The answer is no, it makes a wave. It doesn't make a sound until there's a person or surrogate, like a recording device, to turn that wave into a sound. It's an interesting concept, because we have, air moving, and what is even a sound? Our ears hear between, 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. 20 hertz is really low. 20,000 hertz is like a high, annoying whistle. Usually, around, 200 to 800 is the kind of the range of the voice. When I say hertz, that just means beats per second. But if something beats, we perceive it as sound. But if I go, 100,000 hertz, we perceive it as light. So everything is ultimately just vibration. And our 5 senses, wood, fire, earth, metal, water, which is sight, taste, touch, smell, and hearing, they get translated into our senses. And one of the meditations we do in the Master's Apprentice, we learn how to turn off all your five senses. We seal them. And then we have the sixth chakra, sometimes called the pineal gland. Think of it very simple. It's your antenna to truth. Some people call it the antenna to God. It's this little pineal gland. And when you open that up, you listen. So you get a lot of wisdom there, but you have to shut off all your senses in your brains to hear it. Otherwise it's too overwhelming. You have too much noise, blah, 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 and you can't hear anything. So you learn to go inward, shut that down, and then it opens. And that's one of my secrets to doing so many albums. I just go get it. I just shut all my senses down, and then the music just shows up. I don't even write anything. I mean, my name's on the album, but I don't write anything. It runs through me. I translate it, is what I do. And then I record it, and I do all of that, but none of it comes from me. Nothing comes from me.
So you're like doing it, what you're saying is you're doing it present in that moment. Like you're not planning ahead, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's where it comes. I mean, there's some stuff, any artistry, there's a composition part. You have to put pieces together and stuff, but the Zen piano albums, it's a translation of a 6,000-year-old wisdom teaching called the I Ching. And so, all the stuff is written out, but then when it just comes, I go to that place where it just, the themes are written, but then it just starts to come out and it flows. And sometimes it's called a flow state. Sometimes we call that a state of grace. We can call that Zen state. Sometimes you call it in the zone that you are. And part of mastery and self-mastery is being able to get yourself there regularly. 24/7, no. I'm not in that state 24/7. I haven't seen anybody I've hung out with the greatest Zen masters in the planet. I haven't seen anybody in that state 24/7. So let's not have an unrealistic standard. It's okay to get crazy a little bit and lose yourself in thoughts and lose yourself in form. That's okay. We know it's going to happen. So don't beat yourself up. Just how quickly can you come back to center? That's the mastery. How quickly can you come back?
So good. This is really great. I think a phrase that we use in the Wolf Den, I'm sure you've heard it, Jason, is like keeping loops open. I think through this whole thing so far, you've opened up a lot of loops. You've gotten me really curious about a lot of things, which is really great because I think that's where that space piece comes into play. Like in order for us to even be in like discovery and curiosity, like there has to be space. So yeah, this all really excites me.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it is presence, because if you also go back to the yin yang symbol, there's the little dollop of black and white and white and black. And there's a profound teaching there. And the teaching is when something goes extreme yin, it flips to yang. Something goes extreme yang, it flips to yin. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you're something so cold, it burns you. What? How can you get burnt by something so cold? That doesn't make sense. No, it makes perfect sense because it's extreme. Or I live out in Arizona, so it's so yang, it's so hot because it's August and it's 2 p.m. You want to sleep. Or it's a full moon. It's 2 a.m. and the moon is just full and it's still and you're wide awake. So that's so yin, you become yang, awake. Or the sun is so bright, yang, you go yin, you want to go asleep. Or we can even say emotions, like I have so much upset running through you about some situation that didn't go the way you wanted that you're completely calm. Because there's an old Taoist riddle, and that's what's the closest number to infinity? What's the closest number to infinity? And the answer is 0.
0.
Yeah, that's the closest. Or people that if you have if you're prone to excess, you're generally better off with abstinence. If there's something in your life that you're just excess, that's your world, then you go abstinence, because excess and abstinence vibrate together. They're the dollops. They're the extremes. And so you just got to know yourself. If you just can't eat 1 candy bar, if you have to eat 40 candy bars, well, you might be better off eating 0 candy bars. And then you can just kind of hold in that space. And the same as, of course, with, alcohol or other things. If you can't do, 1 shot of tequila, if it's 40 shots of tequila, you might be better off with 0 shots of tequila. Not a judgment, just be wise and know yourself.
Yeah, I think key phrase there, know yourself. This is this whole experience of crypto and getting everything that we're doing. It's an opportunity for us all to do just that. I think that's the key point here.
Yeah, that's right. And remember that, crypto is not the end result. It's a tool, because if you go to the Home Depot looking for a drill, okay, you go to buy a drill, you don't want a drill. What do you want? You want a hole is what you want. The drill gets you the hole, but nobody wants a drill. I don't want a stupid drill. I want a hole. And so you don't want crypto. What is it? That's not what you want. What you want is the abundance, or, basically the, it's self-finance, it's money. Because see, we have 7 chakras. Okay. And some of you might be familiar with the chakras, but if we look at the first 3, the chakras are synonymous with dimension. It's just energies that runs up and down us. And so the first 3 chakras are elimination, procreation, and survival. First, second, and third. Another way of saying that is shit, sex, and money. And a lot of crypto is about survival, and it's about money. And then once you can get past that, yeah, we can do cool things. We're doing all types of cool things in Cleator and some of the charities we're doing, and we're building the Wolf Den. We have a new ranch, and we have Master's Apprentice, and we have these training programs, and it's so, so cool what we're able to do with that. But at the same time, hey, money comes and goes. Remember what I said at the beginning? Sometimes your pond is full. Sometimes your pond is empty. Pond full, okay. Pond empty, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Actually, and just because it got brought up, Jason, would you mind just spending a moment sharing just a little bit about what's happening in Cleator and with Wolf's Den, so that for those in the Luna Den who aren't aware can kind of be in the loop.
Yeah, okay, so we have all types of Cleator stuff. And let me give a little warning about NFTs, because we have Cleator NFTs, and then we have Master's Apprentice NFTs. But however, you might know in OpenSeas, they do all these copycats. So only get the links from us if you're going to get any of these. If you're going to participate in Master's Apprentice, get the links for us. If you're going to participate in Cleator, get the links, because otherwise you'll just, you'll be very sad. You'll give Ethereum to some scammer. It's so horrible what OpenSeas does, by the way. So I'll say that. So we have the town of Cleator, and we're doing all types of cool things in the town. There's the citizenship. We had the first big Cleator party, and also Cleator is a metaphor. You can go to whatsyourcleator.com. And it's a metaphor of doing something outside your comfort zone. Okay, because under a year ago, I sent a text to Joe Polish. I saw a news story, town for sale. And I sent him a text, and it was a joke. I said, hey, want to buy a town? Ha, ha, ha. A moment later, he texts me back, well, maybe. I'm like, no, I don't want to buy a town. I don't know how to buy a town. What am I going to do about it? I know nothing about this. Well, 4 or 6 months, and here we are owning a town. And I still know nothing about it. And I'm still making this up as I go along. And I still have no idea what I'm doing. Little confession there. And so the metaphor for Cleator is what's something that's outside your comfort zone that's going to force you to grow in a certain way and that's healthy. And that, like, what's your Cleator? And it's amazing the types of things we're getting that just so it's a metaphor of that, of the development. And we're doing, I can't say too much about some of the stuff, but we have some really cool stuff planned in the towns. We developed the town. It was a ghost town. It was a mining town. There used to be a school there and a post office and a train and all that. Well, now there's, only a handful of residents. And so there is a bar, a bar and a store. And so we're doing some development that we're also doing building the infrastructure. We're helping the residents. There's no well. We're going to build a well. We're going to do all types of stuff in there. But then in addition to that, with Wolf Zen and Master's Apprentice, well, we're building a really cool ranch and a cool place to chill and if you want to train, see, there's go there and chill and enjoy the beautiful mountains. That would be more of a wolf or Wolf Zen. And then there's the, hey, I actually want to train and I want to go through cultivation and I want to do the breathing exercises. For some of them, we're teaching sword mastery. And then that's Master's Apprentice training. So they kind of all ties in together, just depending on, interest and depending on where you're at. And the Master's Apprentice is a combination of, we meet you in the mountain and we do cool stuff in the mountain out here, but there's also online and there's a lot of support because not everybody can make the mountain. But you got to come out here at some point, but there is ongoing online.
Yeah.
I think I got it. I think I said some of it. Yeah. I'm sure I left out a bunch.
For sure. But no, that was great. Yeah. And I think there's some people on the call who actually been to Cleator. Really cool experience. Really excited about what's happening. So yeah, I appreciate all of that. My boyfriend PD's going through the Master's Apprentice. So it's good stuff.
It is.
Yeah. And I feel like just what we've done today by just like like scratching the surface. And I think this is a good place for all of us to start, by just kind of like opening up the door into what this could lead to for every single one of us, whether that is master's apprentice, or if it's just even, developing a new experience of life for all of us to have, crypto being a part of it. It's really great. So
that's right. No FOMO. I call it JOMO, the joy of
Yeah.
missing out, by the way.
yeah.
So you start getting into FOMO, you start making rash decisions. There's no space in your decisions. No, just even, with the training, the training that we do in this whole thing, the turtle beats the rabbit. If you want to be amused for 30 seconds, Google turtle versus rabbit, and you'll see actual turtle races versus the rabbit. It's really funny to watch. The turtle always wins. Slow and steady, always beats fast and erratic every single time. And so be the turtle in the race. Don't be all over the place and crazy. No. Just slow and steady. Little bit. And Mark just said it was lovely visiting Cleater, reflecting on what is my Cleater, and a good ongoing exercise. Purpose shall show up. Yeah, that's great. That's great, Mark.
Yeah. Well, so I will just say, Jason, like, I think a lot of things you're talking about in this call, although they're very simple, I feel like you're kind of breaking my brain in a lot of ways, which is good. This is good. As I said, opening up loops. I want to get a chance, if you do have a little bit more time, if we want to open it up for any questions, if anybody has questions for Jason, anything about, if any of you have questions about what's happening in Cleater and Wolfson, or if even just about his experience, his journey, we're open for that too. So we'll see if anyone has anything. I don't know if Callie's with Penelope, if Callie had anything as well.
Yeah. And so this is live streaming on Zoom?
Yeah. And it's on YouTube.
Or
I can stop it on, I can stop streaming. Oh,
no, keep it on the YouTube. If there's questions on the YouTube, I don't see that feed. I only see the Zoom feed right now.
You know what? I didn't even look. Let me go.
We can do it.
Let me open up the YouTube link, because I never even looked. Let me look at my question.
See,
there's not. Okay.
There's a, actually, I'm going to get a prop. 1 second. There is a great teaching here in the sword. And so, Callie, you even just reminded me of it. See, when you're first born, we're met with the sword. I didn't grab my flute. I have a flute over there as well. But there's a metaphor of sword and flute. And the flute is breathing life into something, and the sword is cutting. And what in your life right now do you need to cut? There's something you need to cut. There's a habit you need to cut. There's maybe a looping thought pattern that's not serving you that you need to cut. Maybe you need to cut 10 pounds. Maybe you're literally carrying 10 pounds more than you really need to be carrying around with you. Maybe it's something bigger. Maybe it's a relationship that you need, personal, professional. I mean, maybe it's a career change, whatever it is. Maybe it's Floki you need to cut, whatever.
That's great. That was great, Jason. I love it.
So there's something in your life that you need to cut right now. Or maybe you're so cool, you're so sexy, you got everything going on, all you need is a haircut. And maybe you need to trim your brows or something. Maybe that, whatever it is, you're always cutting. You never stop cutting. And then, the flute analogy is, what do you need to breathe life into? But here's the interesting thing. When we're first born, we're met with the flute and the sword. And Callie, you made me think of that when I saw you holding Penelope. And when we're first born, we take a breath. Then we're met with the sword. When the umbilical cord gets cut. And that beautiful moment of meeting the sword is the birth. You see, the opposite of death is not life. Life has no opposite. The opposite of death is birth. It goes birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, and then life goes underneath, is a constant. There's no yin yang when it comes to life, but birth and death need each other. There's no such thing as birth without death. And the sword is actually both. We say, oh, the sword is death. No, the sword is birth. Because the moment you cut something, we create that. And so when you go out and you have to cut your garden, if you work in the garden, you got to cut it, you got to trim it. You trim something. Oh, is it a death? Sure, but it's also a birth. You have to do it so something can grow. And so sometimes in your life, you're not cutting, you're not trimming something that needs to be trimmed. And it's not only the not trimming, but you're blocking birth. You're blocking a new birth. You're blocking the space to create something new. Because sometimes you might cut something not knowing what's next. And I'm not advising you to do this. This is a personal situation. Sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, if you have the means and you say, hey, I need to stop this job, I don't know what's next, and you have the means, that's okay. If you're feeding a family and you got kids to support, oh, I'm just going to stop this job because I'm not feeling it. No, I'd say get to work and feed your family. So there's a balance there about what you have to do, and you have to figure that part out. But the point is, sometimes you cut without knowing what's going to grow. You don't know, but you have to cut. And there's the wisdom. That's the wisdom of the sword, because in sword mastery, and this is an option on the Master's Apprentice, we say the beginning level of sword, you cut 1 into 2. Okay, that makes sense. But mastery of sword, you cut 2 into 1. And that's a metaphor, is you use the sword to become whole. Cutting 2 into 1, and you use the blade to polish your soul. And so it's not about the blade, it's about this, and it's about your soul. And the swordsmanship, the iedo or the gomdo, or drawing the sword and setting the sword and cutting, is that whole metaphor.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's really powerful. I just took some notes there myself. What in my life do I need to cut? These are great questions.
Always
that we
something,
can
and it
ask.
never
Yeah.
stops. It will never stop. There's always something you need to cut.
Yeah, and I like what you mentioned about sometimes you don't know what's going to come next. And when I just reflect back on probably the most powerful transformations or transitions, I should say, that have happened in my life have been when something ended without me knowing what was going to come next.
Right.
It's a really, really beautiful transition that happens when we make that decision. Although I realize it's really not easy. There's some discomfort in that uncertainty, for sure.
Yeah. And that's when I said earlier, can you sit with uncomfortable emotions? And sometimes uncertainty can be very uncomfortable. For some people, it's more uncomfortable than others. Sometimes if you tend to be control freak, that tends to be your mojo. If you have, I'm saying that word playfully. So go with me here. So sometimes you have, control freak energy usually comes with worry. Usually there's a worry in that same vibration. So if that's your mojo, first of all, don't judge it. Sometimes that's just your nervous system, or that's just your upbringing. We call that earth elements. It's a whole other topic. On Master's Apprentice, we'll go through your energetic constitution, so you know yourself a little bit better. And if that's your mojo, okay, just master it. You don't have to change it, just master it. Because with that earth type energy, well, there's some good stuff also. There's a lot of like benevolence. There's good intention that you can have if you just learn to focus it. So it's not about changing your nature. Good luck with that. But it's about owning your nature. See, if I say, like everyone in this, if you're here right now, there's a really good chance you have a lot of determination. You wouldn't get here without determination. But if I went home and asked your spouse or partner or somebody close to you, they'd probably say that every once in a while you can be very stubborn. That's my guess. I bet that's 98% true for everyone in here. What does determination and stubborn have in common? Well, really the question is, what's the difference? But then we say, what do they have in common? Well, you have an abundance of will. And actually we hold will in the kidneys. So you have this will. When you're determined, you own your will. When you're stubborn, your will owns you. So we don't try and cut the will. Well, you're so stubborn, you need to have less willpower. No, why would you do that? And sometimes I see people try and do that to the kids. This kid has a lot of willpower, so let's just drug his ass. There'll be none of that. Okay. And again, sometimes you have to. There's no absolutes here, but you take the will and you just channel it. So you own your will. When you own it, then you have unbelievable determination.
I love that. It's so good. So good. Let's see. It's so strong. Learning, own it and master it versus change it. Yeah, I wrote that one down too. It's not about changing your nature. It's about owning it. That was a key takeaway from me, is not judging what's there.
That's right. Well, you know, there's a saying in business, you run a business with the team you have, not with the team you want. It actually comes from a military saying, you fight a war with the army you have, not with the army you want.
Mm,
Well, you know, you go through life with the nature you have.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the nature you want, who cares? It's the nature you have, and then you just master your nature.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really good. Okay. Let's see. Do we any questions, guys? I don't see any in the chat now. Callie, anything? I know you're off camera, but anything else that you wanted to jump in with for Jason?
Jason, you kind of touched on this, and Courtney and I, we had a discussion about this the other day. Didn't put it as well as you did, but you talk about the present and accepting the present, right? And denying the present as a form of suffering, right? Versus accepting the present as a form of peace. And Courtney and I, we were having a discussion. I'm pretty sure we did this on a YouTube. Anyhow, the comment that I made was that, and this is what I learned when I came into meditation, you can't selectively numb emotions, right? So I got into meditation and I was like, amazing. I'm just going to feel all the good things now, and all the bad emotions, I'm just going to turn those all off, and then we're set. Which in essence looks like an upward trajectory of life, right? Happy, more happy, right? So happy chart is just continuing in an upward trajectory. I was hoping that you could speak a little bit about that, or kind of maybe give us some final thoughts, because you've touched on it where you don't have the ability to selectively numb things, and trying or attempting that will cause more suffering.
Yeah, right.
Right. So just, yeah, if you could give your take on that and how it might relate to crypto, so that we give people, you know, a real tool for themselves.
Okay, this is really good. Maybe we'll do we'll finish with this question. Then we'll wrap it up. So, okay, if I wanted to say, okay, everyone, we're going to take a course in suffering. Now, there's a really good chance you've already mastered suffering. But however, if I was going to teach you a class on how to suffer and how to be better at suffering, we'd work on three things. We'd work on attachment, resistance, and judgment. We would attach and we would cling to our stuff, and we would identify, and this is mine, and this is mine, and these things are mine, and everything is mine. And oh, I don't have that. And we would cling. The second thing we would do is we would judge everything. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, this, you know, I'm in the traffic. Oh, this is so stupid. How can there be traffic right now? I can't believe there's traffic at 2 a.m. We'd complain, we'd judge. Oh, we'd do that all day long. We would complain. And then the third thing we would do is we would resist the now. We'd, okay, what's going on? What do I do? What's my schedule? We'd always be out of the now. Now, I'm obviously saying this with sarcasm, but the suffering comes from attachment, resistance, and judgment. So then we start to say, well, what are some of the opposites? Well, some of the opposites is, and I spoke about earlier, this is not my shirt, it's the shirt I wear. This is not my sword, it's the sword I cut with. A sword I cut with. And so when you create the little bit of space, you're not attached. Okay. Judgment is a funny thing. We have to discern. So when we say judgment, but it's very easy to get like catty or negative or complain a lot. A lot of complaining is a form of judgment. When you just complain and bitch. I mean, sometimes you have to vent, fine. Be careful of that.
I can't do this.
Resisting is being in the moment. Just not being in this moment. So look, you're going to have negative emotions. There's what I said earlier, there's no tomato without the manure. Can you sit and allow a negative emotions to run through you and not be attached to them? You know, because even the word depression, it's a real word, you know, because somebody says I am depressed is a very different energy than I have depression type energy running through me. Even making that distinction creates a little bit of space in the depression. Because depression is a real thing. It's like, it's depressed. It's everything is heavy. You lose your bank account, like your chi bank account becomes drained and everything becomes heavy and everything becomes dark. Well, that's an energy. And that's an energy that's running through you. But there's no such thing as I am depressed. It's I have depression type energy running through me. And even that little bit of space makes you not the energy, it almost creates like a crack where a little light can shine through in it. So you have a dark emotion, which creates a light emotion, and don't run from the dark. Actually be okay in the dark and sit in the dark. And ultimately, this is a little more advanced. You take dark emotions and you turn them into power, you turn them into light. The same way, I mean, think about it. This is in nature. A fertilizer turns into a tomato, and it can turn into something very healthy. And I'm just, you can use a lot of analogies, saying fertilizer and tomato, but dark emotion turns into light. And there's breathing that you can do and movement that you could do, that something's dark because you have it. I have dark emotions, that you turn them into power and you turn it into the brightest light. I mean, that takes a little bit more training, but I started you on that today with the breathing. Like the foundation of that is in the breathing. And if you just start to do that type of breathing, some of this can even start to happen naturally.
I love that. It actually reminds me of you know Jesse Elder, Jason?
Yes.
You met him at, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something he talked about in one of the past Wolf Den town halls was I have money, but I am not my money. And that small little distinction that we can actually very much take into action, what you were just talking about into crypto, is, hey, when I'm looking at my portfolio, like this is something that I have, but it is not, I do not identify with
the same
being
thing.
it.
Yeah. If you identify with your portfolio, you are so screwed.
Yeah, you're screwed. Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't want to be you. Because I was reading of this last crash. I mean, people were, committing suicide and going into depression and all types of horrible stuff. You got to be so careful of the petri dish of addiction that is crypto. It's not about the crypto. The crypto is the tool. The crypto is the drill. What you want is a hole.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the market for a hole, you have to buy a drill. Well, what are you in the market for? Like, what are you using this crypto for? What problem of yours does it solve?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to stay focused on solving the problem and not about the crypto, because who cares about the crypto? It's about solving your problem.
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot, solvable problem. We always come back to that all the time, is what's the problem you're looking to solve? Callie actually opened up a great conversation about that in our Telegram today, was, hey, let's redirect our focus from looking at these charts all the time and instead focus on what problems we're actually trying to all solve personally. Because when our focus is in that place, we're now no longer attached to the ups and downs of what's happening in the craze of volatility, because it's a lot. So yeah, Jason, I really, really appreciate you jumping on with all of this. I think this is a great, I've said it as like foundation for us all to start out on, for those of us who are maybe new, but I mean, a lot of us have been in crypto for some time. So even if we have been, and we've learned through our, maybe not necessarily great approach, to kind of redirect and remember what this is really all about, the hole, not the drill. I love that analogy. It's really, really good. So
yeah, and if you'd like in the future, we can do some more. There's all types of stuff we can do. We can actually do a little bit of movement, so even 5 minutes. We want the chi and the pinky to go into the big toe. You got to circulate the energy and circulate the blood. Stagnation is not your friend. And the other thing we can do is I could even do a live piano. I could do some Zen piano, and then we can get into some deep listening with live music. That can be a lot of fun also. So
I would love to do
there.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Me and Callie will chat on that. We would love to do that. We may end up doing that just for our members. We'll see. But yeah, that all sounds great. We really appreciate it. Awesome. Well,
awesome.
We'll wrap up there. I don't think we had any other questions. Callie, you good too?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah.
This was awesome. Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome. And then also everyone on the, watching live on YouTube, and then everyone here on the, in the Zoom, this was a lot of fun. And see if you can take, the little dollop that we did of stillness, the little dollop between action and reaction, and apply it today and put it into your life.
Yeah, definitely going to do that. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. Yeah, we'll wrap up there. I'm going to stop the recording.